Herman Mashaba says he's trying to find a way to use the private sector to generate power to avoid load shedding in the city. He also says Johannesburg will spend around 1.2 billion rand on the rehabilitation and resurfacing of the metro's roads. Mashaba delivered his State of the City address today. ANC councillors walked out of the event. They've accused him of using the speech for electioneering. Mayor Mashaba is here and joins me now. Mr. Mayor, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Really appreciate this opportunity.
You say you want to use the private sector to generate electricity in Joburg. You say that will avoid load shedding. What are you actually going to do?
Well, the city of Johannesburg has got a license to buy electricity from Kelvin Power Station. Currently, we only buy 200 kV, of which this power station has got a capacity to go up to 6,000. So we therefore feel as a city we need to explore this option. I've already instructed the city manager to engage them to see if they can increase their power generation and reduce our pricing so that they can give us up to 6,000 kVs. That will really make a huge difference in the event of Eskom, which we know Eskom is not going to be able to supply electricity to this country in a long time. I have the responsibility as executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg to look after this economic engine of our country.
Why has this not been done before? I mean, the Kelvin Power Station, I think it's about 50 years old. It used to work and used to generate power for city power in the past.
Well, you can understand over the last 25 years of our democracy, we've had people who have focused more on stealing public monies than delivering services to our people. So things like this can never be in the agenda because they only do something if obviously the individuals and the party can benefit. Whereas in our particular case, we are here to deliver to our residents. We sit with massive unemployment. We sit with an economy that is not growing in a country with so much potential. So my role and responsibility is to play an enabling role to ensure that we can unleash the potential of our country and our people.
Do you think someone's going to try and stop you doing this? I mean, there are various legal things in place around who's allowed to distribute electricity, who's allowed to generate it. Do you think someone's going to try and stop you from doing it?
We'll meet in courts. Fortunate enough, we live in a constitutional democracy and the courts are there to resolve these matters. And I cannot see how any court will not allow us to provide electricity to this economic engine, because I think any judge who can make a determination against this crisis of electricity, I don't think that will stand a chance. And fortunate enough, if I look at our judges in particular, are not captured. If obviously we're sending me to another criminal justice system, I'll get consent. But one thing for sure, I have full confidence in our judiciary that it is not captured yet. And I don't think they will capture it.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about infrastructure in the city. You're spending a large amount of money on roads, rehabilitation, resurfacing. Imagine in some cases with some of the roads you probably have to start again. But bridges is a major issue. You said recently, I think it was 80% of bridges were unsafe in the city.
Well, only 6% of the city's bridges. We've got 902 bridges in the city of Johannesburg. Only 6% of them are in good condition. Almost 76% of them, Stephen, you drive over them or underneath them at your own risk. That's a fact because there was no repairs and maintenance in the city. In the last 25 years in the city of Johannesburg, the most was ever spent on repairs and maintenance under 2%. If you look at our current financial year, by June, I would have pushed repairs and maintenance to 5%. We need to get it between 8 and 10%. Unfortunately, we're sitting with 170 billion rands infrastructure backlog. So you've got a long way to go to really address the city's woes. But the only way we can address this, we need economic recovery. And economic recovery can only happen if we bring the private sector on board.
Okay, I mean, 1.2 billion rand on roads, it's not nearly enough money for those bridges.
Just on roads alone, the city of Johannesburg, to really get to a level where you and our residents out there can be happy, I need 11.8 billion rands. And if you look at my full capex for the full year, it's just over 8 billion. Just for everything. For the roads alone, I need 11.8 billion rands to get our roads to be in acceptable condition. So the task is massive. But at the end of the day, I think I call upon our residents to say, let us grow the economy so that we can have more people working, less dependent on the state, really get economic activity happening. And I'm sure you heard last week I announced 20 billion rands in the history of South Africa, not just Johannesburg. We've never seen 20 billion rands of investment happening. I made a statement on the 1st of December 2016 that I'm going to take back the inner city and give it to the private sector. People insulted me, thought I was mad. Here is it. Last week we announced the winning bidders. Yesterday we revealed them. The black-owned companies own 20 billion rands of investment. In 6 months' time, the city of Johannesburg is going to become a construction site.
Okay. I mean, 73% of people in this country believe that jobs are the biggest problem, right? So unemployment is the biggest crisis that we face. How many jobs are you able to create? How can a city go about creating jobs?
Well,
and that is one of the things your party
just this project alone, of the inner city rejuvenation of the 84 buildings is going to create 11,000 jobs. Definite, because what we did, Stephen, when we put this the properties on tender, we had the terms. The first one, please show us your BE credentials. Secondly, show us you've got the money because we want you've got to start building immediately. Show us how many jobs you are going to create in the inner city. Go and show us your developmental plan in terms of artisan training. Show us how many units you're going to build and what type of rates you're going to charge. Now we've got the commitment. 20% of those units that we are going to build, that the private sector is going to be built, will be affordable accommodation with rental starting as low as 900 rands a month. Student accommodation in particular. Student accommodation, us as a city, education is not our competency. Students are going to pay less than half of what they are currently paying from the private sector, because as a city of Johannesburg, we are supporting this initiative because we need to speed up the education of our people.
That's quite a big promise to make, that students in the future will pay less than half of what they're paying now.
I will be, within the next month or two, I will going to be actually launching the first project. It's almost at the final stages, where we're going to be producing the accommodation to about 106 units, where students guaranteed will pay half of what they're currently paying.
Right. I mean, there are plenty of promises in your State of the City address. I realize that. You're a politician.
No, these are not pie-in-the-sky type of promises. These are real.
No, I realize that. The point I'm getting to is that the ANC councillors walked out of your address today. They accused you of electioneering.
Well, unfortunately, if the ANC finds the truth uncomfortable, it's not my problem. I think I wasn't there when they were looting unlimited resources of our country, when they made our people poor, they failed to provide affordable accommodation for our people, with the city which I inherited with over 200 informal settlements with no services whatsoever. People did not even have toilets. And you look at what we are doing now in informal settlements. When we took over the city, in the medium-term budgets, they had 260 million rands budgeted to electrify informal settlements. I've taken the budget that I'm presenting at the end of May, taken that to 750 million rands. These are not pipe dreams. These are facts. If you look at the number of informal settlements in terms of pollution facilities and water, we've more than doubled in 2 years what the ANC could not do in 20 years.
All right. You make claims about corruption in the ANC in the city of Joburg, but there are claims about corruption involving your administration and your sort of coalition but informal arrangement with the EFF, payments and patronage being dispensed there. Are you absolutely sure that your administration, the coalition government that you lead, the previous managing director of the Joburg Roads Agency, Dr. Sean Phillips, has complained about the management of that agency. He was forced to resign because of the way it was being run by a member of the mayoral committee for the IFP.
Well, unfortunately, I think Dr. Sean Phillips, for me, is such a disappointment because matters. When he brought the matter of GRA board interfering with him, because I'm not the kind of person really dealing with matters in the corners. I brought the chairperson of the board with him, and I don't know what he expected me to say when to realize what he was talking about was just really pure nonsense. But fortunate enough, the investigations were underway as I'm talking to you. The senior people in GRA are on suspension. But at the end of the day, Sean Phillips had nothing to actually provide to me. And in fact, the projects that people are on, the senior management of GRA are on suspension happened during his tenure. So probably he'll have something to really answer in the long term, because these are not projects that happen in our administration. These are tenders that happened under his watch.
Okay, you spoke today about the issue of foreign nationals. There's arguments around the terminology. Sometimes you use the phrase illegal immigrants. You said that of the clinics in Joburg that are treat people in Johannesburg, the clinics that you run, something like between, and this is from the text of your speech that I saw today, between 15 and
39%.
How can it be between 15 and 39%? Can you
in different clinics. So obviously I'm saying some clinics will be up to 25%, others will be up to 39%.
So if we put it all together, what's the figure?
In terms of the actual, obviously I've given it in terms of the percentage of the numbers. We see obviously the thousands of people. So here in terms of the report, I've got it in percentage, showing that the number of people that we see in different clinics ranges from 25% to 39%. These are big numbers. I mean, even at 25% of undocumented people.
It said 15%, but
sorry, 25. Sorry. Did I say 15?
It said 15 in the text.
It's 25 and 39%. These are big numbers of undocumented people that our clinics have to cater for, because we have a constitutional responsibility to ensure that anyone who visits our clinic, we give them attention. But at the end of the day, when we budget on the numbers that we get from State SA in terms of the number of people in the city of Johannesburg. This question of undocumented foreign nationals, it's actually something I find totally unacceptable to understand why Home Affairs is not attending to this matter. I've been in government now 3 years. I've had to deal with 3 ministers in the 2.5 years that I've been in government. And all of them, from Malusi Kigaba and the other 2, no real interest whatsoever. And if I have to really give you cases of some of the cases one comes across, why the national government is happy to just live with this chaos. I find it difficult.
But Mr. Mayor, I mean, isn't that because there is actually no answer? I mean, if someone in Zimbabwe has no economic prospects, I mean, you would probably do the same in your position. You would take your family and you'd go to a place where there are economic prospects. I mean, that's what human beings do.
Yeah, but the thing is, Stephen, no country can ever succeed. If you believe you'll have a country with no borders, I can assure you, you're not going to have a country. You are as equal as no country whatsoever. What we want to do as a country, and the city of Johannesburg in particular, this city was built at the back of migrants, and we want to encourage the 7 billion people of the world to come to Johannesburg, but they must come here legally, and when they're here, they must respect our laws. Our constitution, it's fortunate, is very clear around who qualifies to get asylum seeker status or temporary residence. And those who don't qualify, unfortunately, they've got to be sent back where they came from.
All right. Mr. Mayor, you obviously are aware of the Alexandra protest, 3-4 weeks ago now. In the end, despite everything that happened, the President went, the Premier went, you didn't go. You insisted that the residents of Alexandra come to you in Marlborough, which is next door, but you did insist they come to you. Why didn't you go to them?
Well, I think, Stephen, I made it clear from day one. On the first day when this matter came to attention, I had serious engagements I couldn't get to. And I sent one of them.
More serious than the protests that were happening at the time. Oh, my goodness.
How many protests do we have every day in the city? You can imagine, just today alone, do you think I should have left State of the City address to go and attend to protest? And I sent one of my senior officials, MMC son. And what actually made me cross was how he was abused and racially abused. And I've actually complained to the Chinese embassy and the Chinese people all over the world so that they see what ANC is all about. Because in the process, fortunately now, it came to my attention that this was an ANC-driven project to destabilize my city. It has nothing to do with the plight of the residents of Alexandra. People of Alexandra have suffered. One of these days, Stephen, I'll be sharing with you and people of this country what happened to the Alexandra Renewal Project funding.
All right. You say all of that. I mean, but the point that the ANC was making at the time was that you were too scared to go to Alexandra. Do you deny that?
I've never been scared to go to any community, and nothing is going to stop me from going. But one thing for sure is that I was not prepared to meet with criminals, because this was pure criminal activity driven by the ANC to disrupt service delivery, to disrupt the government, the multi-party government that I run. It had nothing to do with the plight of the people of Alexandra, because people of Alexandra are the ones coming, giving us affidavits on a daily basis how some of the people were paid to actually to participate in these disruptions. And this information will shortly come out in the public space.
Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba, thank you very much indeed for your time here on SABC News tonight. I really do appreciate it.